Today's podcast, I'm going to start a little differently. Yesterday, we had to say goodbye to our beloved 19-year-old dog, Charlie. And it's always a tough call at that point when the body starts failing, but the love keeps them going. That was pretty heartbreaking. And also, my podcast guest for this week had to cancel at the last minute. So I was interviewed a couple of days ago by my dear friend Lisa, who's known me for 10 years. And we had a pretty interesting conversation that I thought would be of great value to you guys. I decided to put that in for this week's podcast so that I didn't leave you with nothing. Lisa and I covered a lot of ground and gave a lot of tips that even she hadn't heard me say before. It's cool when you've known somebody for about a decade and you have this really honest and raw conversation, and the things that come out can be pretty magical. I'm guessing that somewhere in the conversation, you're going to hear something that might be new, or it just might be reframed in a way that you hadn't heard before that will really make you think. Most of the women that I talk to are trying so hard. They're doing the right things. They're trying to read the labels. They're making swaps to what they have been told is a better option. Maybe they're downloading apps, and yet they still don't feel confident that their decisions are actually moving the needle forward, that they're actually making things better. A lot of times that's because it's not really just about swapping one thing for another. It's about the framework of making the decisions. What questions are we asking about the products that we're using? What are the factors that make one thing more important to take care of than another? That's where I'm focusing my attention these days. And after 30 plus years of researching and implementing my own changes in my household and growing organic food on this farm that I live on, and working as the founding executive director for the Household Toxins Institute that was started by founder of Seventh Generation, and tech editing for the Green Living for Dummies book, and being a confirmed TEDx speaker for next fall, I can tell you that the single most important thing, it's not about the next swap. It's about learning to think differently about every choice that you're making, particularly in your kitchen. That's where I usually have people start. Today is Saturday, April 18th. I have a contest going to win free access for one person to my new Your Non-Toxic Kitchen Reimagined course. If you fill out my free kitchen assessment today by midnight, you'll automatically be entered in the contest. The course is available no matter what, and the free kitchen assessment is available no matter what. But to win that one slot is ending today at midnight. Here's my conversation with Lisa, and I hope it gives you value the way it did for me.
Hi, Lisa Schermerhorn here with the Grassroots Warrior Network, and you're on my show Where Truth Lies. And I am thrilled and excited to introduce you to an actual real friend of mine. She and her husband co-own this amazing organic farm. She's got quite a bit of history. She's actually about to do a TED Talk, which I'm really excited to hear about. She's a green living educator for 30 years, and she's also a podcaster and really amazing when it comes to what to eat properly, how to eat, toxic and non-toxic things in your kitchen, things that are really going to surprise you. And Amy, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. It's always a pleasure.
You started basically growing up in the Upper East Side in New York City,
I did.
and your dream was to become a farmer, organic
Well, I
farmer,
wouldn't
or
say
to
it was
be on a
necessarily to be a farmer, but was to live in a beautiful
live in a
landscape where I could grow my own food. I didn't
yes.
necessarily need to do it on the scale that we do it, but
So you're quite the manifester of how this came about.
yep.
But I'd love for people to hear about your journey of how you got to where you are now. It's quite an interesting journey.
I did have a very unusual start. My mom was a big into nutrition. She loved Adele Davis. So she was making us drink things like Pep Up that had brewer's yeast in it, which was just disgusting. But we had no junk food. And
Wow.
my stepfather was a chef. So I learned to cook at the age of 8, cooking from scratch from that point on, still to this day. One of my other early inspirations was my great aunt Jojo, who came over from the former Yugoslavia, and she grew most of her own food. I loved going to Morgantown, West Virginia to visit her and her husband, Harry, because I get to tour the gardens and I saw herbs drying in the basement. And I'm pretty sure she made her own soap. She basically was self-sufficient, and whatever she didn't have, she traded with her neighbors. And that really stuck with me. Like even the taste of her beefsteak tomatoes with a little bit of salt, I feel like I still taste that on my tongue. I moved from that beginning to my first summer job at 16 was working at a health food store on the Upper East Side and learned about vitamins and organic food and a little bit about household products. But it wasn't until I was pregnant in 1992 that I found this little non-toxic baby book. And I couldn't believe, first of all, that there were toxic chemicals legally allowed in everyday household products, including baby products. And what was even worse was nobody was talking about it back then. And nobody was really protecting us. There's so many loopholes that these corporate entities can use to not have to tell people what's in their products, like perfume. The fragrance of all of these different products can be up to 200 different chemicals that they don't have to disclose because it's proprietary.
When you talk about baby products, you have the
Yes,
Johnson and Johnson, the baby powder,
asbestos.
asbestos, and formaldehyde in their baby shampoo. And we were putting this on our babies' scalps.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to imagine how this was allowed. In Europe, they have so few toxic chemicals in their products compared to us. It was
Yeah.
just overwhelming.
You then became enamored with your great aunt. What an amazing thing. I grew up on canned vegetables, so I
Ooh. I can still remember the color of the green peas that were like a weird army kind of green color, right?
That's what I was raised on. I
Yeah.
remember coming up to Vermont and seeing farm to table, and also your dressing. She makes
Oh,
me
the
think of
salad dressing.
I keep
So cute.
telling
I
you to
love that.
bottle it. How did this journey continue when you started reading this book? What happened then?
Then I started to do a ton of research, and it was a lot harder back then. There was a few people who had written books, which I bought and read all of them. And I'm the type of person that once I've learned something, I have to share it with other people. I want to make everyone's life better. I started writing letters to the editor. I was living in Marblehead, Mass. This was a little bit unheard of at the time, talking about toxic chemicals in everyday products. And I got a lot of people waking up, but I also got the Better Living Through Chemicals crowd that were attacking me. And then it turned into a community action thing. I thought, let me do a big Earth Day celebration and showcase all of this stuff. So we had green living workshops and vendors and organic food and live music. And I brought my CSA farmer up and he sheared a sheep just to bring that kind of connection. One of the things I realized early on was that I wasn't just about the food. I wasn't just about the household products. I wasn't just about holistic health because I have, this is a whole nother story, but I have a bone deep fear of Western medicine based on some experiences that happened to me. So I wanted to empower myself to prevent ever having to go as much as possible. And so that's where the holistic health came in. And then the whole growing piece. So it's like these four different pillars that I combine together because they're all interconnected. As I said to you before we got on, it's teaching from the ground up, right? I'm teaching people even how to grow their own organic food and then talk about what are good choices for healthy food and how do you avoid all the greenwashing on the labels, right? Because there's so many different labels that have no meaning. I
Right.
went through about 100 of them at one point and wrote an ebook about it just to let people know which labels actually were verifiable and had some sort of independent entity checking them, which ones were somewhat useful, and then which ones like natural, which are completely meaningless, have no
Right.
real
I
definition.
was just going to say, I had heard that when you see all natural, it means nothing.
It
It
doesn't.
absolutely,
The frustrating part, I think, is that people assumed that meant no pesticides or organic or no GMO, but that is not the case.
no, no. And then I just saw something about grass-fed beef. Unless it
Yes, I did
says
too.
grass finished, it
Correct.
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. So what that says is grass fed is great, but oftentimes if it doesn't say grass finished, it means they've been finished on grain for, I think it's about 3 months before they're slaughtered. And that grain doesn't have to be organic. It could be GMO corn, which is what a lot of dairy farms, beef farms are feeding cattle. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that's going on with our labeling,
I
all that
even
kind of
saw
stuff.
something about when a company will say, we don't have phthalates, these hormone disruptors in them anymore. But what
Mm-hmm.
they'll do is they find another chemical
Yes,
and
you're talking about
replace it?
BPA.
Yes.
Yes, so that is such a disturbing piece. Yes, there are cans that will say BPA free, but you're absolutely right that what they've used to replace it is oftentimes even more toxic. And people don't realize. And then the whole thing about plastic, we are totally inundated by plastic. And one of the things that I've been teaching people about is how to eliminate plastic. And one of the first things I say is do not drink from any more plastic bottles.
Yeah.
Those are one of the worst. And that is where we get one of our largest exposures to microplastics, which, is in every part of our body, including brain and arteries. And there's connections to Alzheimer's and heart disease that they're exploring. One of the things that I don't think people realize is microwaving plastic or
Oh,
putting plastic in the dishwasher. And these are things that I talk about in my new Your Non-Toxic Kitchen Reimagined course, because I think that people don't really know what's going on and they're making changes hoping for the best. But if they don't have a framework for making the decisions, okay, which decisions are actually going to make a difference? And how do I evaluate all these things in my kitchen so I know the next time a new study comes out or some influencer says, do this, do that, or swap to this, to that? I want people to feel like they can become their own best expert, not to have
right.
to depend upon me or
So
anybody else.
I'm curious because you just said plastic in the dishwasher,
Yeah.
right? So what happens when you put plastic in the dishwasher? Because I noticed that whenever I empty my dishwasher, anything that is plastic in there isn't dry. Everything else dries, but it's
Oh, that's
always
interesting.
still wet. I always have to
Yeah.
set it aside and let it dry.
Yeah, so it's what happens to plastic clothes in the washing machine and dryer. And what I mean by that is like nylons and all those different recycled plastic fleeces and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. But what happens in the dishwasher is similar. It's in contact with heat. And so heat is going to break down the plastic and create those microplastics. And it actually makes the plastic more brittle. So I don't know if you've noticed over time, maybe some of the lids get a little bit cracked or they don't fit as well onto the. I use glass containers to store food, but they do have plastic tops.
right.
And I talk about how I deal with that in that course. But yeah, the whole issue of the microplastics that are getting washed out of the dishwasher and onto your dishes and glasses, right? Because whatever you're using, even for dishwashing detergent, is going to be leaving a residue. And so you have that plus the plastic when you put
Right.
plastic in there.
So I'm curious because there are apps out there that people use to check that things are non-toxic. What
Yeah.
are things that you offer above and beyond that if people already have those apps?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the framework. So the apps will analyze certain products and tell you what the problematic chemicals are. And then maybe some of them might offer swaps. I don't really use the apps too much because I've done all the research myself and I
Right.
know how to read a label. So I'm teaching people how to read labels and how to understand things like natural being meaningless. And if there's no certifying agency, even wild caught doesn't mean anything. And that was one of the biggest bummers.
Really?
Yes,
What?
unless it has a
Afraid to go
marine
to the
something.
grocery store. I mean,
I know.
seriously.
I know. I'm actually going to do a walking tour of a supermarket, but I have to get permission in order to be able to do that. So that might be tricky. I might have to go to a food co-op, but somebody's going to hopefully let me walk through and talk about the things that I look for when I go shopping. But I teach people in these courses that I have through the podcast, the Green Living Now podcast. I am interviewing all kinds of other experts. A lot of them are holistic health focused. So they're talking about unbelievable stuff. So many people that have come back from nearly dying and found their own way because Western medicine failed them. And so they've used holistic tools or they've cleaned up their food in their homes that they had to figure out on their own.
Right.
And then I've got some of these guys and gals who have all these cool products like red light therapy and somebody that teaches self massage. There's just so many different neat folks that I've talked to on there.
Yeah, I use the red light therapy. I have a
Oh,
mask
you
that I
do?
use. Yeah, I
Have
really
you
love
tell
it.
me, have you noticed a
Um,
difference?
I just started using it about 2 weeks ago, so
Oh,
I'll keep you posted.
yeah, I'd love to
But
know.
I was at my daughter and son-in-law's, and they had one. And my son-in-law was saying he was with someone at work, and he said, "What are you doing? You look much younger." I'm
Yay.
using
Oh,
this
okay. I need the
red
notes.
therapy mask. So the one I use has four different lights, not just
Ooh.
red.
Okay, I'll have to find out which one that
Yeah,
is.
I'll get it for you.
Nice. I missed part of the journey of how did I get to Vermont on an
Yeah, yeah,
organic
yeah.
farm, right?
Yeah.
So I finally moved to Vermont in 2001 and was hired by the founder of Seventh Generation to be the executive director of this new nonprofit that he started, the Household Toxins Institute. And that really immersed me into the world of household toxins. Then I joined this Coming Clean network and I got invited to do tech editing for the Green Living for Dummies book, which was really fun. And I've moved forward with all of this type of work and coming up with the courses or the farm tours or retreats, doing personal growth and wellness retreats for women on the farm, which I'm doing again this summer.
But just to
Podcast.
stop you, so
Sure.
we live in this beautiful area called the Mad River Valley in
Right.
Vermont. I think you're the only organic farm, correct? The
Actually, there
valley?
are others now.
Oh, there
Dave was
are.
the first. Dave was the
Okay, he
first, but
was the
yes.
first. So if you just want to come to Vermont to see the area, it's beautiful. But I've done the farm tour with Amy. It's fascinating. And you have people who come from all over,
Yeah,
correct?
out of the country even.
Yeah. So talk about what's involved with the farm tour. What do you
Yeah.
do with
So
people?
okay, so it's both educational and experiential. And so what that means is I actually take people through the fields and they're tasting green beans off the vine or cherry tomatoes that they're plucking themselves and learning about what does certified organic really mean? And what do we do in order to, work in harmony with the land to grow this incredible nutrient dense vegetables and fruits? We cover the organic farm. Then we do the maple sugar house because Dave, my husband's, he's one of 5 generations of sugar
Mm.
makers. And so we talk all about how does maple turn from sap from a tree to this incredible liquid. Then we do a little bit up here at the house because I love having my own gardens. I've got a little house garden and some other herbs and flowers in the front of the house. We end at the back with the big hydroponic greenhouse that Dave was one of the founding members of. We sold his shares 6 years ago.
Very cool to see how
It is
everything's
wild.
grown. It is.
Yeah.
It's really wild with all the lights. They have basil in there.
Basil, green leaf lettuce, and watercress. Actually, they
Watercress.
added a fourth one. Now they're doing Thai basil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess that's a big thing at the Whole Foods.
So that's a one day, or do you have things that are more than one day?
So that's a 90-minute tour, give or take, depends on how many questions. And
Yeah.
then there's the option to have lunch. So then I make a farm to table lunch with as much stuff that's in season on our farm as possible. It
It's
just kind
worth
of
it
brings
for
the
her
full circle.
dressing.
Thank you. Yeah, because usually a big salad is part of it
Yeah.
for sure with the dressing. Yeah. And then as far as longer term things, I'm bringing back the retreats. So I'm going to be doing a 5-day retreat in mid to late August. I actually have a description for a shorter retreat on my website, but it'll be expanded to include things like an herbal experience and probably the signature horse experience. Did you ever do that? I can't remember.
No.
Oh, for years, I have taken people to have an experience with horses where the horse is really like a life coach.
Oh, with Janice.
With Janice part of the time, but I
Yes.
started off with my friend Peggy, who I consider
Okay.
a horse whisperer. Janice is a coach like me
Yes.
who has some training working with people and horses. But my first retreat 11 years ago, we went to Peggy and we did, do you know Monty Roberts?
No.
Monty Roberts is this amazing man who the Horse Whisperer movie was modeled after a little bit.
Okay.
And he does this sort of natural horsemanship work. It's working with mutual trust and respect for the horse, to the horse, and from the horse. One of his powerful things that he does is he teaches something called join up. If you imagine a round pen, which is basically metal gates that are forming a circle, and everybody would have a turn by themselves with Peggy and one horse. The people would be standing in the middle, the horse is on the outside of that inner circle. And with this little carrot stick thing, which is basically a stick with a string at the end of it, which you wiggle, you move that horse around you and you tell that horse which direction to go. So if they're going one way, you're going to want to stop them and make them go the other way, because that's one of the ways that we establish ourselves as the leader. Whoever moves the other creature's feet is the boss. So
Okay.
that means, like, if you're standing next to a horse and the horse nudges and you're thinking, oh, that's so cute, he's trying to get my attention. No, that horse is saying, oh, I moved your foot. That means I'm the boss of you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Eventually, the horse starts to show signs of, hey, I want to be a part of your herd. Because in the wild, Horses by themselves are the ones that get plucked off by mountain lions and
Right.
whatever. The horse will start to drop their head and start doing this licking and chewing movement with their mouth. And that's the moment where you realize, okay, now you stop driving them around you, you turn your back to them, and you literally let them join up with you. So what happens, I've never seen it not work. You'll feel the horse come up to you and start breathing on your neck and maybe nuzzle you a little bit. And then you turn
Wow.
around and you give it love. And then without any lead rope or halter on, you can walk around that pen and that horse will follow you. And so that
Wow.
means that horse is taking you as their leader and says, I want to join up with you. It is so
Wow.
incredibly powerful. Like I just got goosebumps thinking
Yeah.
about anybody that's done it, but especially that first group, because I was working with some female veterans that had some awful trauma and the healing that came, especially from that horse experience. Even this woman who's my co-leader for the retreats this year, Andrea, was one of my clients in my retreat. She's a therapist, and she said she got more out of that horse experience than years of therapy. It is
Yeah.
so profound because they're reading your body language. They can even detect your heart rate. They know when you're nervous. And I have a perfect example of that a bunch of years ago. My daughter had this life threatening brain tumor experience, and she's fine today. But I had just come back from all this time in the hospitals and was pretty stressed out. And I was going to do this session with this horse by the name of Freedom. As I was looking at him inside the pen, he's running around like a crazy man. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go in there. And I had horses at this point. So I had a fair amount of horse savvy. I said to Janice, I'm not comfortable going in there when he's acting like that. She said, yeah, I get it. Turn around, keep your back to Freedom for a minute. Let's talk. I think we spent maybe 5 minutes talking about what I had just been through. And then I just took some deep breaths, grounded myself, let go of all of the worries that were in my head. I turned around and then there's the horse just staring at me, blinking. I'm like, wow, I know this stuff. And it was still so powerful to see I changed my energy, that changed his energy.
Yes.
Right. So I walk into the pen, he follows me around, I'm petting him. Then he lies on the ground and puts his legs up in the air, like in a total submissive position. I'm like,
What?
this is amazing. Yeah, that was
Wow,
pretty cool.
that's incredible. I've done a little bit of work with Janice where we had to use our energy to get the horses to move. Yeah, they had to detect and sense us. I've spent very little time around horses, so
Yeah.
that's really profound. So now this retreat you're doing, so there's experience with the horse. What else do people get
Oh,
to?
and then organic gardening. So they'll learn about organic gardening. We'll talk about the green living stuff that I do, like how to eliminate toxins from your food and your household products. Oh, the herbal piece. We'll have a workshop with this fantastic herbalist that I've worked with before. And then Andrea brings in her work as a therapist. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is nervous system recalibration, right? Because
Awesome.
most of us are pretty stressed out and we're one headline away from freaking out about whatever is going on in the world. And so we want to help people just ground themselves, like I did with the horse Freedom, really
Yeah.
ground ourselves, go of all this outside stuff, come back to who we are inside, that soul, that higher
Yeah.
consciousness part of
Yeah.
ourselves. And if we can operate from that place, we make such better decisions. As I know from your own work, when we're stressed out, we don't make the best decisions.
Not only do we not make the best decisions, but our bodies can't heal because
That's
all
true
the
too.
energy is going into fight or flight
Yes.
that your body can't go into any healing. So whatever's going on exacerbates in your body.
Yeah.
And when you're focused on something that's going on outside of you and all the stress, you
Yeah.
have no energy to manifest what you want in your life.
Absolutely true. I had one of the most intense conversations with a woman who had suffered three incidences of sexual abuse. The first one was at the age of 6, that she
Wow.
didn't even remember that one, but she did know about the two when she was 14 and 15. She never dealt with all of that because she thought she got away unscathed. She had a pretty good life. She was a mom. She had a business. She was married. Things were good. But then all of a sudden her body started to become allergic to everything, like even certain types of humid air or certain types of
Yeah.
floor materials, all of them related to those incidents of trauma. And she went through such an incredible process to actually heal from those traumas. so that she no longer has these symptoms that almost killed her. I think she was water skiing in a lake with her family and did not realize that there was some runoff from farms that were toxic in that lake. And she went into anaphylactic shock and almost died.
Wow.
And so it was just an incredible journey. So that tells you how much the emotional part of what happens to us, in some ways it protects us because it walled her off from that trauma,
Right.
but then the body starts to show up and say,
I,
excuse me.
I was literally working with a client yesterday, and she said, I know that I have a lot of physical issues that are based on trauma. And then we started to talk about it, and she said, I don't talk about this one incident. I keep it in a box.
Ooh.
And I said, that's interesting because just because you have it in a box tucked away someplace as a memory, your
Mm-hmm.
body knows it's there.
Yes. And
And
it
so,
has tact.
yes, so we did some major work of pulling all that up and helping her heal it. So
Wow.
for the people who stuff down, it has to go somewhere. And the body takes 90 seconds to process emotion if it's processed properly.
Oh,
If
interesting.
you ignore it, because we are meant to go, okay, I'm going to feel sad now. Okay, now the sadness is gone. I can let it go. When we hold on to it, it changes our physiology. Body
Yes.
adjusts to it, and then it starts to break the body down. So this kind of work is really important. And people are like, I'm afraid because if I touch it, then I'll cry. I'm like, your body's already crying.
That was the interesting thing that she talked about, was the fact that she had to go through the trauma on a different level than when it happened in order to get through it, which is difficult. You have to
Yes,
be ready for that. And I'm sure you work with people in a way that they feel safe to be able to process.
right.
I should interview you on my podcast, by the way. Can't believe we haven't done that yet. Yeah. So I think our minds think, oh, I'm fine. I put that in the past. The woman said it was in a box, but it can lead to other kinds of health problems and we don't know why. And that's where I think Western medicine is not able to get into that kind of stuff.
Take a
It's only just
pill.
treating symptoms.
Yes,
Exactly.
take a pill. I know people who have had their lives changed who needed them,
Absolutely.
and that's fine. My issue is I think it's most important for people to do a deep dive. And sometimes you don't even know where it's come from because it's unconscious or it's
Yeah.
inherited.
Yes. Let me just say something about the inherited, because that is such a powerful one. I grew up in a family where my mother did the S training. Did you know
Oh,
that?
yes,
Right.
yes.
And so I ended up doing it at the age of 13. So what that taught me, I did all kinds of workshops after that on topics like relationships and money and this and that. So I learned about speaking up, speaking my truth, and communicating. And I've always been interested in how to communicate effectively, especially when it comes to my feelings. And not everybody grew up that way, I know. And
No.
so those of us who didn't have that kind of early upbringing, a lot of times we had to suck in our feelings, and maybe that we had an abusive parent and we had nobody that was really there protecting us. And
Yeah.
so there's so many different pieces that can cause problems, whether it's just emotionally, which then can become physical too, that make it difficult for us to have relationships with other people, or difficult for us to speak up and speak our truth. And yeah, it's so far
It's
reaching.
especially hard for men because men are raised
Yes,
with big boys don't cry. There was even that song
exactly.
in the 80s or
Yes.
70s.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's important for us to process our emotions
Yep.
and let
And
it go.
speak.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So these retreats that you do, because I want to get back to that,
Yes.
you work with the horses and then you're doing the mental
Organic gardening.
emotional, the organic
Yep.
gardening, anything else that people should know about. That's a lot, is it on its
That's a
own?
lot. Yeah. We want to also factor in time for just relaxation, like journaling. We do these cool walks through nature and just observe things and write them down and then talk about it afterwards. We can swim in the river. If people want to hike, we can hike. So there's also that sort of vacation feeling of taking a break from the world and eating really good food that's made by our favorite caterer around here that uses a lot of our stuff. I think I've covered all of those
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
So you've got the retreat, and then you had started talking about in the kitchen, not only just the food, and you talked
Yes.
about plastic, but even cookware.
Yes. So the non-toxic kitchen reimagined course that I did, it was great. I got some fantastic reviews from people who said, "Oh my gosh," one naturopathic doctor said, "I'm recommending this to all my patients because I don't have the time and wherewithal to do all the research that you, Amy, have done. I have done."
Yeah.
I made it easy and fun. I made 5 short videos that are under 10 minutes each with a little bit of accompanying text with an optional exercise to do at the end, but it shifts the way people think about the choices in their kitchen. So, how do you make a decision about what cookware, right? We see these non toxic cookwares that are marketed as green pans, but a lot of times they're not really non toxic. They have some other substances that it's like a polymer in the coating. The whole idea behind this course is not just to give people swaps and information, but to teach you how to use different criteria for making decisions about, okay, what's the most important thing that I should tackle first? I used to think microwaves were really unhealthy because back in the early days when I was researching, that's what the experts were saying, that, oh, it
Right.
chemically changes the food. Apparently, there's studies now saying that's not necessarily true. So, is microwaving my food such a bad thing? I'm still not going to get a microwave, but
I don't have one either.
yeah, I just don't like the
So they were
uneven
just
way.
the expensive timer for me. I
Yeah,
would use it
exactly.
to
Another
time
clock.
things.
But that kind of a decision versus, am I putting hot food in a plastic container? Those are the kinds of things that we need to look at, because a lot of women that I talk to are overwhelmed. They don't know who to trust or what to trust. And they don't know if the decisions that they've made are actually the right ones and if it's really moving the needle forward. Are they really protecting their family? I think that's a great course to start with. I can't remember if I mentioned that I'm doing a contest
So your contest ends 18th?
Saturday, April 18th at midnight Eastern. So if people do the free kitchen assessment, they're automatically entered into the contest to win that course. One person will win access to the $197 course.
So now let's say someone, because this is going to go up today,
Yeah.
let's say someone sees this next week and they miss that deadline. They can still
Okay.
take the course. They can
Oh, God,
still
yes.
reach you.
Yeah.
So how do they go about taking this course?
They can just buy the course by itself without doing the kitchen assessment. The kitchen assessment is on my website and it's free all the time. The course itself has the $197 fee. So if somebody says, I really need this, I'm not going to wait and see if I'm the winner, they can purchase it if they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
that's at
that
greenlivingnow.com.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else going on that we didn't cover or anything that's important for people to know?
I think we covered a lot, Lisa. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you can think of?
Also, if people are in Vermont and they want
Yes,
to learn more, learn about organic gardening, organic farms, or anything like that, can they just contact you and come visit your
absolutely.
farm?
Yeah, they can come visit. They can take the tour. I even have 2 gardening courses on my website. One's for beginners, and then the more advanced one, I have a ton of video footage that I took of Dave doing all kinds of tasks, like how he makes the onions grow so big or the tomatoes are so wonderful. All of his little tips that he's learned over 35 years, I've been able to capture on these videos. So that's in the advanced course. There's a little bit of those videos in the beginner course, but if you want the deep dive to really start growing more of your own food, which I think these days is a good idea.
Yeah,
Not that it
and
always hasn't been, but
yeah.
there's so much going on with the food system that's scary.
What about fertilizers? Because people want to go and do their own garden. I have a funny
Yes.
story. My first garden ever, I decided to grow, and my friend said, "Oh, go pick up this particular organic fertilizer." So she didn't tell me how much. So I put this gigantic bag, I
Oops.
put the whole thing in. So she said, "How much did you put in? A cup or 2 cups?" I'm like, "No, the whole bag."
Oh
And she
no.
said, one of two things is going to happen. Either all your roots are going to burn, or you're going to have this crazy garden.
Giant green
I
plants.
had a giant green, crazy I had cucumbers growing down my yard. I had zucchinis growing everywhere. I
Oh,
had a new zucchini every day, like literally
wow. That's
overnight. I was like, what's
incredible.
happening? But I
That's
haven't
awesome.
had a garden like that since.
Wow. One of the differences about organic and what kind of fertilizers we use versus the conventional farms is, instead of using the petroleum based fertilizers, which
Yeah.
are very fast acting, we
So that's
use
like the
things.
Miracle Grow, would you say?
Exactly. You do not want Miracle Grow or anything like that. What you do want, though, is things like compost. composted manure, but then that gets a little tricky because it depends on what the animals are eating and then, what's in their poop.
Oh, I didn't
But
even
things
think
like,
about that.
yeah, things like seaweed and fish emulsion fertilizers are really good. We use dehydrated chicken manure a lot of the time, and compost. Compost has gotten very expensive. If you can make your own, that's great. It's a little tricky when you have bears like we do here, or other creatures, because we have lots of nature running through here. So those are slower released. One of the things I talk about in my tours is what you want to achieve with an organic garden is you want to grow a healthy soil to grow healthy plants.
Right.
That's really the bottom line. So we keep about a third of our fields in cover crops like winter rye, but those grow and then they die back when the frost comes. They pop back up in the spring, and then he plows it into the soil because it's building the organic materials, because you really
Mm.
want to keep growing that soil. All those healthy microorganisms that are eating all that stuff, they're the ones that produce the nutrients too for your plants. And that's a really important thing to do. But if you have a small garden, it's a lot more affordable to purchase those types of good fertilizers.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I encourage people, if you see this before Saturday, enter the contest. If not, if it's after, then I encourage you to take this course. Amy is so knowledgeable and she's got an incredible amount of integrity. I've known her for 10 years. She was one of the first people I met here, and she and her husband opened their arms and their hearts to me. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you and what you
Oh,
do for this community. And I want to thank you so much. And please look into taking this course because I think it's really going to benefit so many people.
oh, thank you so much, Lisa. You're the best.
Oh, thank you. And I can't wait to hear about all the people taking your program this summer.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Your
I'm excited for
retreat.
that.
All right. Take care.
You too.